All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is the NASA SEWP breakout session with Joanne Woytek. Am I saying that right?
You got it almost as well as they said it in Slovakia, where I was
So,
before
all
this all
right,
happened.
Slovakia, fantastic. And if you're wondering if this lady right here has any experience, she's been with NASA since 1992, and she's been the direct. Oh, that's NASA SEWP, right? That's when you.
Right.
So
Yeah, I've been with NASA since '77.
Since 77, I'm sorry, so short. Since 77, she's been with NASA. Since 92, she has been with the NASA SEWP program, SEWP, in case you didn't know what the heck that was when you clicked on the button. And you can explain what that is if it means anything. And then in 99, she became the director of NASA SEWP, and since then has been running a team of highly effective folks who are, a lot of them are here today, so you can reach out to them in the engagement room as well as the V booths, and we'll push you that direction at the end of this. But in your 43 years that you've been doing this, you have seen so many things. It's awesome. Thank you for being here. And before we start, what's the coolest thing that you have ever done with NASA? What's at the top of your list?
Yeah. So I've done quite a few things, obviously, in that many years, but I always point to the one that I was working in image processing, and together with my mentor, we wrote the code for the first stereographic image of a satellite, of a hurricane, from a satellite to a hurricane. So the very first 3D imagery of a hurricane came from us.
That is fantastic, and that's awesome. And you're a code writer at the core. Is that what I'm hearing?
I was, yep, and wrote a lot of the initial code for SEWP and the technical stuff that runs it, but have not coded in quite a few years. I have a great team that does that instead.
And you do have a great team that does that. They are top drawer. I love it, love it, love it. And you can't give these away, but we'll be giving these away later at happy hour, as I mentioned. And with that, I'm gonna let you go ahead and you kick off your presentation. I'm gonna do my best to answer what questions we have here, and then and we'll come back at about 10:30. What is it? 9:30? 10:30. Sheesh. 10:30, and we'll get to those questions. But you take it away, ladies and gentlemen. Joanne Woytek.
I thank you, everybody. This is, as mentioned, I'm Joanne Woytek, the NASA SEWP program director. And go through some things about SEWP relatively quickly here. Hopefully you all have questions once we get to that part of things. First of all, what is SEWP? It stands for Solutions for Enterprise-Wide Procurement. It is a multi-award suite of contracts. We are GWAC, one of the only 3 agencies that actually do GWACs, NIH and GSA being the others. We currently in SEWP 5 have 141 contract holders, of which 108 are small businesses. That is a set number. We'll talk about that later, about how, when those awards occur. But what the number that does change every day is the number of providers, the companies that have a product or service on the contract. We are currently at 8,000. We add somewhere between 5 to 15 new companies a week to our contracts. So these are manufacturers like, obviously we have the big ones like a Cisco or Dell. We're now at 8,000. We're adding a lot of the smaller companies out there, very specific companies to support the needs of our customers. From this past fiscal year, we hit $9 billion in obligated dollars coming through SEWP from every government agency. And note that SEWP, unlike the other GWACs, we're not just able to be used by every agency. We, in fact, are used by every single government agency. So you name the agency, except for the CIA, who I've been told uses us, but we can't know. We track everyone using us. The broad scope is we're an ICT and AV solutions contract. And most importantly, our role is to provide support information, and we'll talk about that in the next slides. We have 2 roles. Well, we have many roles, but one is for our customers, the government customer. We manage the contracts. We help with any issues between the customer and industry. We're here to make the acquisition easier on both sides, obviously, but certainly for the government. And we do our best to inform our customer with as much information as we can and make it as relevant and correct as we can. So you can see our statement that we're here to serve as a decentralized acquisition. We don't do the acquisition for agencies, but we provide the vehicle for them to do their purchasing. For you all, for the industry folks, we do have an industry team and we have a contract holders team. We'll mention that again in a little bit. We oversee and monitor all our contract holders. So we have a team that works directly with those 141 companies that have contracts. Much like we mediate for the government, we also mediate for industry. If industry has an issue, we will assist them in working that out with our customers. We have a very strong verification process for supply chain relationships. If you are a provider to our contracts, you can actually go on, we can get access to a website where you can monitor and acknowledge which of our contract holders are approved to resell your products and which are not. And we do it at many levels. It's a very robust system. We are, as I will mention in just a bit, we expedite edition. By expedite, we mean our average to add a product is under an hour. And that takes into account weekends and night. So a request to add, on average, is less than an hour to add an item.
That is unbelievable. I just got to throw in, that is crazy awesome. Just saying.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of that. And our statement is, and our is that we'll do it within a day. But when we actually look at the numbers, it's less than an hour. And we'll talk a bit about 889 and some of the other things we do. So policies and best practices, we're making sure that we are informed and we can assist industry in how that works with acquisitions. And then, as I mentioned, we have an industry team now that is helping industry support them. And if you go to the, as mentioned, the room where SEWP is sitting, you'll get to meet some of our industry team folks out there. So I gave a broad scope, a broad statement of our scope. Here's the full statement. And essentially, if it's IT, it's in scope. If it's telecommunications of any type, it's in scope, and if it's AV, it's in scope. There's no hidden pieces that aren't. Everything in those arenas are in scope. All hardware, all software, the cloud, all the telecommunications from cell phones to satellite communications to lots of military usage, of course, with telecommunications. But even we had, for example, the Park Service uses for their devices across the entire park system, and including the cell towers and all that. So anything in communications. Skipping down to AV and conferencing. This is all the teleconferencing, obviously very big right now as we sit here in the Zoom feature. We do have Zoom on our contracts, but all of the teleconferencing and video conferencing that you think of, all the TVs and everything that goes with it, all the accessories, all the supporting technology, scanners, printers, copiers. We even have paper and such, and ink and all supplies. We do have sensors, which allow us, like customers, to purchase items that bring in data into a IT system. And VA is our second biggest customer. DoD is our biggest customer. VA is our second biggest. So health IT is obviously very important to them, and so we support that. Sounds like a lot of products, and you might think, oh, that's what SEWP does, and that's a historical view of SEWP. But if the services might just be one row, but it's actually a lot. Maintenance and warranty, site planning, training have always been a part of SEWP. In SEWP 5, which is now 5 years old, we added engineering services, which covers a broad spectrum of services. It's often easier to say what SEWP doesn't do. We don't do major software development products through services, and we don't do just general support. I just want to hire somebody to take a quiz, take a survey, to give surveys out. We've actually been asked about that, and no, we don't do that. So there has to be some product basis to the service, but it is a very broad piece, and it is a growing part of what SEWP provides. I mentioned slightly about how dynamic we are. We mentioned how fast we add things within an hour. So that makes us what we call a catalog by request. We build the catalog based on our customers' requirements. Customer comes in, they ask for something, the contract holders can go out, work with the companies that can provide that, add the products or services to their contract, and then they can quote it. Again, everything can be done within a day. We typically see about 3 to 5 days for an RFQ to go from request to actually being sent in. Despite that fact that we're very fast and we do this all very quickly, and we actually look at everything that goes on, and that means 11,000 items every day, which is how many items we process every day and add to or change on our contracts. When the customer gets a quote, we provide them with a verification file that tells them all sorts of information, including the fact that the items are on contract, they're priced correctly, they're TA compliant or not compliant, or EP or not EP. We give them the information from our contract as part of the process also. So even while it's dynamic, we're tracking it all and providing that information back to our customers.
Can I jump in?
That's really cool.
Real quick?
Yeah.
This is amazing. So you have the ability to pop it in on an hour, pretty much. But I remember when I first talked to you, you said 48 hours, but usually within 24. Now it's down to an hour. And you manage these things, doing it catalog by request. So you're listening to what they're asking for. That's it. And then implementing it. Fantastic. Love it. Thank you.
And that's, with IT, as everybody here listening knows, IT is changing so fast, and it's so configurable, it's so changeable based on the needs. So we had to be that way. That's the cool part. What we found is that then we'd have a customer coming and saying, but I know I want to get this printer, and I know I want to get it every time. Why do I have to keep asking for it? Why can't you just show me my printers? And these are the printers I want to buy from. So we do have a static catalog concept where an agency can come in and say, I want these types of printers always available to me. We can get those set into the contract, put them out there for that agency, and they can just go and find those particular printers or networking devices or services or whatever they're looking for. We can then add a special area within this dynamic piece that doesn't change unless the agency wants it to change. And then they know what they're getting and can support that also. And that's been a major part of the SEWP 5 story. So the typical process is an agency will go out, select who they want to ask from our contract holders, usually by socioeconomic group, and we have almost all of them. We do not have 8A, but we have SDVOSB, small business, hub zone, economically disadvantaged women-owned, and women-owned. I believe I got them all there. So they're all available to our customers to select from, or they can just go to everybody, including the large businesses. They send an RFQ out through our tool set. The contract holder will receive that documentation. Those who are selected will see that requirement. They will then work with you all, with industry, determine what they need to add those solutions to our contract by our process. As mentioned, it's about 5 business days for an RFQ to be out there. And then once the items are added to the contract holder can submit the quote. Through a tool set that we provide them. So it's a very tight and enclosed system that tracks everything and provides tools to everybody. I mentioned our growth. You can see it's not unusual for us to grow, although we did 40% growth last year, which is quite a jump. It's been averaging more like a 25% or so, but last year we had a really good year for a number of reasons. So that was pretty exciting. So as of October 24th, 2020, we had in all of SEWP 5, which is about 5 years and 4 months or so, you can see over $30 billion. In FY20, 47,000 orders came through our system. That would be new orders. If you're a small business out there, you're wondering if we support you all. In terms of the contract holders, 80% of the dollars goes to our small business contract holders. And you can see the breakout of the different business sizes. So we're very proud of that number and hope that continues. We've always tried to support small businesses, and we do see more and more small businesses again coming in as providers. So why does this happen? Why are we $9 billion really quickly? Speed, we've mentioned that a few times. Customer service, we've been called the gold standard. We are very focused on that. Because we have 140 companies out there, there's a lot of competition. We average about 4 to 5 quotes per RFQ, which we're very proud of. That makes sure keeps the pricing there's nothing like competition to get good pricing. We talked about the catalog system that helps our agency-wide support. We work directly with agencies, so we don't just say, here we are, come get us and use us. It's here we are, work with us, and we'll make life better. Lots of information. We have emails flowing out of us all the time to customers and industry. And we do a number of areas of supply chain risk management. I have a whole long, I'm very much in that arena, both within the government and actually internationally, part of an international supply chain group. So when we come to industry yourselves, some things about supply chain. I mentioned authorized resellers. We do have a verification process about approved resellers. Very strong process that works very well. We also not only support, but we're part of the process to create the ISO 20243 standard, which is a international supply chain standard. If you don't know about it, you can go check that out on the ISO or send SEWP a note and we can get you that information. Actually, or go to our website. There's a link for the ISO 20243 standard. The 889 rule, very important to the industry right now. We have all of our contract holders have been modified, their contracts, and they now have certified themselves against that rule for all of our contract holders. We did that in a record time. We are monitoring the CMMC so we can understand how that's working its way through. That's a DoD initiative, obviously, so it's not directly a NASA concern, but since we are working with DoD, we do want to track that and make sure that we're ready for how that interacts. 508, we actually have an expert, one of the leading experts both in the government and outside the government on 508 and accessibility on our staff, and she does a great job of that piece. And then we do our outreach, and notice the link there, industry@sewp.nasa.gov. We have regular webinars for industry and about some of these topics I just mentioned, plus just general information. So that's your industry piece. The industry team itself, Ken Brown is our manager, and some of the pieces that his team helps you with is how to get emerging technology available, learning more about how we operate. In person right now, meaning virtual discussions with top tier companies, go to meetings, have WebEx sessions, attend events like this, and work with you in terms of what contract holders might best be suited for what you're looking to provide the government. So 5 ways you all can get involved. This is the roundup of my slides. Number 1, add your products. If you have something that you want to sell to the government and you aren't currently one of those 8,000 companies that are on SEWP, work with a contract holder, add your products and services through those companies. We added, I say about 20 plus when you take it over the year. New companies get added every week. So you can easily add, and that's how SEWP operates. SEWP is meant to be a small number of contract holders with a broad reach into the actual OEMs and service providers. Our contracts are typically not directly with the provider, OEM, or service provider. They're with the reseller who can bring, or integrator who can bring those together, which makes this different than people ask about GSA schedules. GSA schedules, everybody wants a contract. That's not how SEWP works. There are some companies that don't make things, but actually want to actually have input into agencies, and they might want to team with an existing contract holder. A lot of our contract holders, 108, are small businesses. Some of them do not have the reach to get into every agency or every physical location. They might be willing to partner with you to where you could help them have access maybe to a special customer or such. So you can work with the contract holder. The contract holder, from the government point of view, is still the point of contact. But again, it's a business to business relationship, but it's still something where you can work and learn. And a number of our current contract holders actually did this first. That's how they learned about SEWP. If you are working for the government already, if you are a support service contractor, you can get a letter from your contracting officer, if your contract allows for it, to purchase from the existing contracts. We currently, on our website, we have a list of all those currently companies. So if you think of a Lockheed Martin, for example, they have a number of contracts under which they can purchase from SEWP. So, and I just picked one, but there's any number of different support service contractors who use SEWP to buy from in support of their contract, and that's a way to get involved. And the one that everybody's always interested in is the big prize: how to get a SEWP contract. So SEWP 5 contracts are 5-year. We just did the 5-year option, so it's 10 years altogether. April 2025. The follow-on, SEWP 6, would be somewhere in 1.5 to 2 years before the end. So we were talking 2023 or so. We would probably start sending out, pieces of information through SAM, whatever SAM is at the time that it is, because it's still a few years away. Our SEWP website will always have that information. It is a very formal process. It's a competitive process. It's not a just come in and hand us a piece of paper and you get a contract. And you have to think of how SEWP is structured. Again, we're structured not as an individual, every company who makes something gets a contract. We're looking for companies that can bring in those companies. So we're looking for the integrator, reseller types of companies. So bear that in mind. Be very, start now. It may seem a little while, but think about those other ways to get involved and start now looking at that.
Can I throw in on that, Joanne?
Yes.
SEWP 5 submission was the most stressful day of my life. I'll explain this later, maybe at lunch or later on. But that advice to start now, start networking and working with the primes on SEWP now, and get used to how SEWP operates, and you will then start to understand how you will position yourself when that comes out. And I know it looks like it's a long time. It's really not a long time. And unlike other contract vehicles that they may wait to the last minute, that's not the way that your group works. You're looking for what's coming next. You have incredible planning and structure for that. So that is the number one question. And that was one of the questions from Stuart that was asking, how can I be a prime? That's how you be a prime. Start now and start working with folks. Great advice. Great advice.
And it definitely makes sure that your company meets what we're looking for. Again, we're not like the other contracts. We have a very definite type of way of operating. Learn it now, and understand that it is a process to compete, and you will not necessarily get an award just because you compete. And we do have. You want
to say that? You want to say that one more time?
This is a competitive process with winners and losers, and yes, we took in more than we have, and each time we take in more. But we still also had quite a few not make it in. Quite a few. Just sending us a piece of paper saying I'm wonderful is not going to do it. and we've had those. And then there is a last one, and this does happen. You can buy a company. Yes, innovations can occur. There's nothing special about an innovation process within SEWP. It is the same process as you would do if you are buying any company, and that involves FAR 42.12. Don't ask me too much about that. We have a team that knows well about how that works, but you should know also if you're going to buy a company and try to innovate. And I use the term company. You don't buy contracts. You need to buy assets, actual physical assets of a company, and there's certain rules to follow. And it has to go through the entire process. That has to do, again, not with SEWP, but with the FAR, of how you innovate. If you buy a company and you now own them and do all the right stuff, then you have a SEWP contract. And we do have a few of those that have occurred. But that's the only way. We don't add any new contracts. There is no on-ramp functionality. It takes 2.5 years to award, from our point of view, because we're actually, in some ways, we're starting now. So it takes about 4 years to award a contract. We can't just on-ramp a company. It takes 4 years to do that. So we don't do on-ramping. It is done at the time of the switch over from one version to the next. So I believe that just about puts us at the right time.
You are awesome. It absolutely does. And I know we're going to have more questions that we have right now. So you can chat those here on the bottom. You can chat things to us. You can do the Q&A. And to your point, the number one answer, the number one question from industry is, how does one go about being added to SEWP? And the answer is, I think you covered that. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, I just really, I know I'm so emphasizing it, but you get involved. You know, if you make something, if you have something special, you can be involved today, and that is the best way to do it. The reach of SEWP sometimes is also not well understood, especially by industry. We truly, $9 billion speaks a lot. Every government agency, I can't repeat that enough. It's not just NASA, it's just not just DoD. You may have something special that works with, the Small Business Administration or HUD. Yes, they use us. Yes, getting involved with us is important. If you're going to get involved with multiple companies, not multiple contract holders. Don't just try to pick and choose. Don't try to play games. This isn't meant to be a game. This is meant to be, government likes competition. You can help us do that by working with different companies, but it also helps you, because if you have, people come to us and say, well, should I go to an SDVOSB? Well, yeah, if you want to sell to VA, you probably want to go with the SDVOSB contract holder and work with them. You probably want to be on 2 or 3 of them, because the contracting officer still wants to see multiple quotes, even if it's, if you're specialized. So don't put yourself into a corner by trying to be too picky. And at the same time, if you're going on working with different contract holders of different sizes, will allow you to be more visible. If you only work with an SDVOSB, that will help you with VA, but it won't necessarily help you with DoD, who might be using hub zones. So then you want to make sure that you're also working with the hub zone. There's enough to keep you busy in industry, but also there's a big payoff to be made from there if you provide something that is really, really useful to our customer base. We're not going to tell you where to go. We'll provide you some assistance in how it works. It's really your job to look at that. We have tools on our website, including a tool that shows you our current 8,000 companies. It's called the Provider Lookup Tool. So if you go to the SEWP website at sewp.nasa.gov, you click on the tools, SEWP tools, there's a Provider Lookup Tool. It's our only public tool that's out there. You can then look up and see, oh, this is a company that I work with. I should be on the same contract, and it will actually show you which contracts they're on. Or you might find somebody who's your competitor. You might say, they're my competitor. I want to go on a different contract. So you can use that tool. You can find out what companies tend to have as their current means into the SEWP world. So use that tool, and then what knowledge you have about the types of companies that are out there to decide who you want to work with. And we will help. Again, the industry team will be helpful. They have a room to talk to you more about that here today.
Yep, and we're gonna show you how to do that. So if you have any questions, you can certainly ask them now. We don't have any questions right now, Joanne. That's crazy, because what I will tell you, when I first met you, you're one of my favorite people in the world. You don't even know it. Because when I first met you years ago, probably beginning SEWP 4 was when what would have been about 2009, 2010.
That would be SEWP 4, yes.
Yeah, and one of our clients with ISI Federal, we engaged Dynamic Computer Corporation, which is one of the ones that got novated, by the way.
Right. Yes.
And I will tell you there was stuff that was happening over the weekend before that was needed to put in, where the vendors were changing you had 16 of the mandatory requirements, right? That's what it was. But you have thousands and thousands and thousands. We called it the kitchen sink. We did the 16, right, but we did the kitchen sink.
Yes.
Right? Because we put everything we could on SEWP, because you never know who you're going to run into that needs what.
Right.
And because we wound up not knowing exactly what was going to be pursued by the clients, but over and over and over. And that chart that you had that showed your growth, where are you headed this year?
Well, I'm always a pessimist, so
You're pessimistic.
But if I do 10%, I'll be at $10 billion next year. Is how I look at it. So
no way. It's over 12. I don't want to hear it.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say and we are reaching the down end of the contract, so it's not likely to keep growing at that as great a pace as you reach the end of a contract. We'll work on doing that as best we can. We do have a question I do see out there. How do I find out if my product qualifies?
Yeah, that's the one. How do I find out if my product qualifies for SEWP? Our product is an analysis product for COBOL, mainframe, and IBM iCode analysis. Great question.
And the answer is yes, it's in scope because it's IT. If it's software, it is in scope. There's no deviation from that. As soon as we see the word software, it's in scope. As soon as you see the word IT, it's in scope. As long as it fits that, if you go back to the scope slide, that left side category of what we provide, it's going to be in scope. And because we are dynamic, as long as it's in scope, it can be added to the contract. So that's why we're adding 11,000 items a day, because there is so many and so many companies every week, because there's so much out there still that can be reached. But if you're not sure, again, just to reemphasize, industry@SEWP.nasa.gov is our industry team. They will assist you. They will answer that question directly. But for the most part, if you're selling anything in the IT, AV, or communications world, find a contract holder, have a customer. Speaking from what I hear from industry, if you go to a contract holder and say, I have this great analysis package, and you don't have a customer for them, they probably aren't going to take the time to add it to our contracts. If you come to them and say, I have a customer who wants to buy this.
Exactly.
Then I add it to your contract.
No matter what contract vehicle you have, and SEWP is the powerhouse, obviously. But no matter what contract you have, get yourself injected at the front end of that to say, hey, federal customers, what do you need? And I'm not talking about broad. I'm talking about talking to a person one-on-one and saying, what do you need? And then you collect that. And then you go to the SEWP contract holders that you want to do business with. And you say, guess what? I have somebody with Department of Commerce, or I have somebody at HUD, or I have somebody, it doesn't matter. Everybody's using it. So take that to them and say, hey, so if I could get this on SEWP, would that help you? And next thing you know, then you start driving your own bus, and then you start injecting yourself in the conversation for SEWP 6.
Yes.
And you start to understand how the SEWP wheels turn, and they turn fast. Everybody, the most amazing thing that I've seen is that your turnaround for your RFQs or RFP, what do you call them? RFQs.
That's for quotes.
So your turnaround for RFQs is usually 5 days, right?
Right.
5 days. And they're not always 5 days, but they're usually 5 days.
Well, it's up to the customer, and customers can go down to a day. We don't recommend that.
Unless it's September 29th.
If they've done enough market research in advance, if they've done the RFIs, if they've done a lot of work ahead of time, they might be able to get a response in a day. We definitely, but in September, we actually let them close within hours. So within hours, folks. And don't wait until September to start doing this, right, Joanne? Don't wait. You want to start. We're talking about you starting for 2025 today, and what I'm talking about, we just got past September 30th. Seems like forever ago now to me, but we just got past it, and we're already wheeling through 2021 in fiscal year 2021, and now's the time to be meeting with these folks and understanding what they need and how you can inject yourself into that. And I will note that we are seeing more work going in July, like this year in particular. We had the greatest increase months with July. So the government's trying to get a little smarter. So not even waiting until September. So just be aware of that too.
I'm from Missouri. You got to show me that that's happening.
Yeah.
But
So the question about
yep.
yes,
Go ahead.
yeah, you can only add as a sub. So if you have a solution, and this will always be the way, you solutions capabilities that you want to provide the government, almost always are going to come in as a sub. Very few of our solutions come from directly from our contract holders. We do have a few. We have a Dell contract and IBM, HP. These are major companies, all and there might be a few. There are certainly things that we expect our integrators and contract holders to be able to do in terms of services and such, and we look for that. But in the in single capability functionality, it's going to be working with us as a sub to our existing contracts.
And so I hope that answers the question. I know there's a lot of folks that are skittish about being subs, and they've had bad relationships with primes. Your grading system of how you manage to make sure that your primes are treating your subs right, how do you manage that?
Well, we do an overall management of all our contract holders on our website, soup.nasa.gov. There is a contract performance page. It is not a past performance, it's actually the current performance of any of our contracts. So anybody who has an issue, including if they're having an issue with their subs and they're not paying them, that will show up as a contract adherence issue. But we will work. We definitely work as best we can to assist when that occurs, and to note it accordingly in our tracking system, to encourage that to not happen. But obviously, it's a business-to-business relationship. We expect you to do your due diligence and use your Dun & Bradstreets and whatever else you all use. And just because somebody has a contract doesn't mean they're good. Go look them up.
I can't imagine.
I would say, probably 90% of our contracts are fantastic, and you got 140. There's probably one or two that aren't. Don't ask me which ones they are. I don't know. Maybe they're on our website without not excellent. But you have to still do your due diligence in who you're going to work with. We won't tell you somebody's good or bad, but we will certainly encourage you to look up what is available in our page and elsewhere.
And couldn't agree more. And we're running to it. I'm going to take over the screen for just a minute, and I'm going to share out where you can go, because everything's driven by the program, right, folks? Everybody's getting that. I think everything's working. So if you look at the 11 a.m. to 11:40, the NASA SEWP engagement room for government folks. This is more for government buyers, right? This is more tailored towards government buyers that would like to know more about how NASA SEWP operates and how they can help you get what you as a government buyer. Whereas the other one, that if you scroll down past all this into the afternoon, you will see an engagement room at 3 p.m., I do believe, which is the NASA SEWP engagement room for industry. This is where you want to go if you're with industry and you want to learn more about how you can engage with NASA and the SEWP primes, as well as figuring out whether you're a good fit. I mean, that's a great place to go ask, and they'll tell you. They will tell you, right? That's the idea. You're going to help them, right? Right, Joanne? Your folks will help them.
And our industry team is primarily made up of people. Guess what? They used to be working for industry. We don't have government people. They're trying to tell industry how to operate. We have industry people, and they're working for the government now to help. We want to make sure that we're not taking a view of we know what you're doing.
And that is why you're so good at what you do. And I cannot thank you enough for being here. I'm super excited. And we'll talk some more at the round table at lunch. We'll be talking a little bit more at 12:30 if you want to see a little bit more of Joanne. Thank you so much for your time. Thank
you for having me.
It is absolutely fantastic. And we're going to let everybody go. Make sure you go to the V booth between now and the top of the hour. Check out the V booth. The question that you're asking everybody that you see is, who is your favorite actor? So there you go. You come bring that at the happy hour and you win stuff. All right. So, and Joanne, I know you can't win anything more than $25. That's a rule.
Right.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate it very much. Thanks, Joanne. All right. See you.